Hello, everyone. In this class, we will be covering break, continue, as well as nested loops. First, I'll start with what is a sentinel null value in a loop, then followed by if we have to write multiple of the expressions to be evaluated inside a while loop, how exactly you can do. Then break keyword and what exactly continue keyword is utilized, followed by nested loop. So in the last class, if you remember that we were writing while and do while loop, and we did discuss about uh, creating multiple programs if we have to write. So Sentinel value in Java, it's a specific value that is used to signal the end of a loop, and especially in the cases where the loop needs to continue until some special or the sentinel value is encountered. So imagine that even if you are writing a continuous loop of while loop, an infinite loop while true, and inside that if you provide and if you are taking input from the user, and if the user inputs -1, for instance, then you would like to the program to stop. So sentinel value is that specific value that will enable you to signal the end of the loop. Sometimes these are also uh, preferred to encounter these kind of sentinel value. You can, rather than using a sentinel value, you can write break and continue loops. So let me write a single program in order for you to illustrate what exactly is the sentinel value. So here, for instance, let me just open Eclipse and we'll write some programs. So here, let me create a new Java project, and I'll write today's October 17th program. Projects, click next, finish. And here inside this, let me rename this to Sentinel. Okay. And let me write an example. Let me just write it over here. Sorry. I'll get rid of all of this and import Java dot util dot scanner, and then public class and sentinel, and inside that public static void main and of the error. Okay, it's fine. So now let's suppose I create scanner, then create an object sc is equals to new scanner, and inside the system.in, and let's suppose I create a variable sum, which is equal to 0, then followed by an input value, which we will be taking from the user. And I will say system.out.println, and I will say enter the numbers to sum. And we wrote multiple example last time if you have to calculate the, and I believe even in your assignment, what you are supposed to do is take one input and the second input and add all the numbers which is between those two numbers. So, or -1 to stop. So let's suppose you will be asking the users to enter certain numbers. So I can write an infinite loop, which is while true, so that it will continuously process the input from the user. And let's suppose input equals to scanner dot next int, and then followed by if the input is, this is SC. Yeah. If input double equals to -1, then break it. So break is a keyword which is specifically utilized to terminate the loop, so that this loop is continuously being repeated, and this particular keyword, which is break keyword, so this is the value, which is that sentinel value to break the loop. And in order for you to break the loop, you are using this keyword called break, which will terminate. And if the input is not a -1 value, then you just want to add the input. And then followed by system.out.println. The sum is, and if I run this, and it is asking me to input the number. Let's suppose I enter 5, 6, 7, 8, and now I enter -1. And as soon as I enter -1, it stops the loop and it calculates the sum of all the other numbers, which is 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8. So what exactly it does is that it is checking for the condition inside the loop, which is termed as the sentinel value, and break is used to break uh, end the loop when the sentinel value is encountered. So once again, the sentinel value is a specific value that is used to signal the end of the loop, and you write down, especially when you have an infinite loop. What about if you do not have an infinite loop, but rather than having an infinite loop, you have like a regular loop? And in that case, would that break also work in that specific condition? Yes, it would work in that specific condition as well. And let me share certain example for you. So here in this case, this time, this specific loop, if you will see over here, you are taking an I number, which is initially has been initialized to 0, and you are checking whether the I number is less than 10. If it is, and then if a specific condition is reached, then you want to break it. Otherwise, you want to just increment the value of the I number. So in that case, can you write these specific kind of loops? And for that, I will write another example so that you understand. So let me open Eclipse again. And this time, let me just open the whiteboard. Let's write. One more thing. Just give me 1 second. I'll update. It's okay. And let's. Okay. So let's suppose when you write a while loop, and inside the while loop, you write some expression that needs to be evaluated in order to continue this while loop. And inside this, if you specify a condition, if this condition, which is termed as a sentinel value, then if it is achieved, then you break the loop. So if it is running for continuous amount of time, whenever this specific condition is achieved, then you break the loop. So that happens in a while example. For instance, if you are writing a do while, in that case, what you would be doing is inside this do loop, you will write if that specific sentinel value is achieved, then you want to break the loop. Otherwise, you will just continue the loop based on this particular condition. So inside the do curly bracket, you will be providing the break. And finally, for a for loop, what you would be writing, so for and your 3 specific thing, initialization, condition, and update. And inside this, you will write if whatever is that condition, if that condition is reached, then you will want to break the loop. So what it does, it from the actual execution of the program, it will come out of the program. It will end the loop, wherever the loop, whenever that particular condition is reached, as soon as it will encounter break, and it will come outside the loop, like totally outside the loop. So for instance, we are writing a for loop. So, and it is continuously running for 10 iterations. So it starts with 1 and it is running till 10. And here you are providing a condition that if I reaches 5, in that case, come out of the loop. How will you be able to write this? So I will write some examples so that you understand that what exactly this break does. So here I will write another, or let me just new and new class. And this time I will write this as test class, public static void main, and finish. Okay. So here, let's suppose you create a for loop, and inside this int I equals to 1, I less than equal to 10, and then I plus plus. And if the condition over here that you're specifying, it reaches 5, then you break the loop. So break is always written in lowercase. And otherwise, if that particular condition is not reached, then you will be printing just system.out.print ln and I. So what it does is, and I'll show you your whiteboard so that you understand what exactly happens. So you have written a specific for loop which starts with 1, I is equals to 1, checks the condition where if the I is less than equal to 10, and you update the value of I plus plus. And here the only condition is that if it reaches 5, then you will break. Otherwise, you will just print, which is system.out.println, your I value. So what happens over here is that this is your memory and you have your I value. It starts with I is equals to 1 and it goes inside. So here in this case, it will check the condition that whether I, which is equal to 1, is it double equal to 5? No. So it will just print the value. So this is your output screen. So your output would be printed, which would be in this case as 1. Now, in the second case, when you will update the value, so I value would be updated to 2, you will again check whether 2 is double equals to 5. No, so you will be just printing the value, which is 2. You will update the value, which is I plus plus, so 3. 3 is not equal to 5, so it will just print the value. You will update the value, which becomes 4. 4 is not equal to 5, so it will just print the value, which in this case is 4. Next time you will update the value, which is 5. And as soon as you reach that I value is equal to 5, in that case, because it has reached to I, it will break and it will no longer be part of this loop and it will come out. So only the output we should be able to see is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's see over here what exactly my output is. If you see over here, I see the output as 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So the same thing, if you have to write down in a while loop, and once again, as I gave you this example, this was a specific condition, which was you are taking the input, and whenever that input is, that sentinel value is achieved, then in that case, it should break the loop. So this works well when you have a specific condition when it is being reached. Now, similarly to a while loop or a for loop, you can always write nested loop. Nested loop is loop within loop. So for instance, and that's sometimes it is being utilized when you are writing major programs. And in that case, you have to run specific examples where you have like one loop doing some kind of process and another loop doing some another kind of process. So you will write a for loop, and inside the for loop, you will write your another for condition. And inside this, for instance, if you write that if a specific condition is reached, then break, then in that case, if you write this particular example, then when we use like break condition, that when a specific condition is reached, then in that case it will, and I'll tell you that how exactly this specific one also works. But generally, when you have this break, it will come outside the loop once again. So whenever break is used, break is specifically used to terminate the loop that you are currently writing. I will write you an example of a nested for loop, and then I will also write break so that you know what exactly happens in that. So let's suppose I'll open my Eclipse once again, and this time I will create a new class, and this is nested public static void main finish. And inside this, I will write a nested loop. So I will start with int I equals to 1, I is less than 5, and then I plus plus. And let me write another loop, which is inside this. And this time, this is int j equals to 1. And j is less than 3. And then j plus plus. And here, I am printing both I and j value. Println I plus and j. So it should print how exactly this is a nested for loop where you are writing multiple loops together, and you will have one loop running for I and one loop running for j. So how exactly um, this specific work will flow is something like this. So here you will be writing your for, and this is your 1i less than equal to 5, or I plus plus, and you have another loop which is j, which starts with 1, goes till 3, and then j plus plus, and inside this you are printing your I and j value. So this is runs till 5 and this runs till 3. So what will happen over here is this is your output of your and I and j value are getting updated. So this is I and this is j. Let me get rid of all of this, which is between. This is your output. And I'm just printing both I value and j value. So how exactly this nested loop will work? It will start with I is equals to 1. So I value is 1. You are checking that 1 is less than equal to 5. Yes. So you will go inside the loop and you will initialize j is equals to 1. Okay, normal processing. Now inside the j, when you are creating j is equals to 1, then you are printing both I and j value. And because j, which is 1, is also less than 3, so you will print both I and j, which becomes 1 and 1. So remember, every time whenever you are writing a nested loop, the inner loop is executed fully. And then after that, it will go back to the outer loop every time this happens. So here in this case, now you are inside the loop, which is your inner loop. So you will execute the inner loop completely. And once that inner loop is executed, then you will come outside outside the outer loop. So this is your outer loop, and this is your inner loop. So as I mentioned, when you come inside this, you will run this completely back and forth until and unless you have executed the entire program, the inside inner loop. Once this has been executed, then you will come outside the outer loop, and once again you will run your inner loop. And I'll tell you how exactly this gets updated. So now you are inside the loop, so you will increment the j value. So this becomes 2. And once again, you will go inside the inner loop and you will print I and j. So I value is still 1. So this would be 1 and this would be 2. Now the third time, your j value would be incremented, which will be 3. So 3 is less than 3. No, not true. So it will not go inside, rather than it will come outside and it will increment the value of I. So this time I becomes 2. Once again, you will initialize the value of j is equals to 1. So now j value would be 1 and you will check 1 is less than 3. Yes, true. So print both I and j value. So I value is 2 and j value is 1. Then once again, inner loop is executed. Every time you come inside the inner loop, you will solve the inner loop completely. Once again, j plus plus. So this time your j value becomes 2. You will print I and j. So I value is 2 and j value is 2. So you will print this. Once again, you will increment the j value. So this time this becomes 3. 3 is less than 3. No. So it will once again come outside the loop and increment the value of I. I value was 2. So this time it will be incremented to 3. So 3. And once again, j would be initialized to 1. You will come inside the loop because 3 is less than equal to 5. So j value would be incremented, which is 1, initialized to 1. Then you will check 1 is less than 3. Yes, true. Both print I and j value. So it would be 3 and 1. You will increment the j value. So j becomes 2 and 2 is less than 3. So print once again I and j. So this becomes 3 and 2. And you will next time again increment the value of j. So j becomes 3. 3 is less than 3. No, true. It's false. So it will come outside the outer loop and you will once again increment the value of I. This time it becomes 4. And you will initialize the value of j. So this becomes 1. 1 is less than 3. So print both I and j values. So this becomes 4 and 1. Increment the value of j because you're solving the inner loop. 2 is less than 3, which is true. So you will print both I and j. So this becomes 4 and 2. And finally, you will again increment j plus plus. This becomes 3. 3 is less than 3. No. So it will come outside the outer loop. And this time you will increment the value of I. I is less than, here this is I is less than 5. So not equal to 5. 5. Less than 5. So 5 is less than 5? No. So in that time, you will not be going inside the loop and your program should stop. And this is how your nested loop works. So I will run your program so that we actually see that this is what we are getting. So I will see over here, which is 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, and 4, 2. Okay, so you see that everything works fine. Now, for instance, inside this, if I write down the break, then in that case, how exactly this works? So let me put this specific condition that if j double equals to 2, then break. And I will run this. And you will see over here, what happens over here is that j is 2. And let me see. So from instead of the out, okay, let me just put 1. The reason is because this is printed out before, and that is the reason it is printing the value. So let me put j is equals to 1 in this case. And let's see how exactly the output works. So here the output is 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, and 4, 1. How exactly this happens is that every time whenever j value becomes 1, it will break the inner loop and it will come outside the outer loop. So when you write like inside the inner loop a break condition, it breaks that specific loop, but it will still be outside. It will be executing the outer loop because you have written a specific loop condition inside the inner loop, it will break the inner loop, not the outer loop. So here in this case, what happens is you have specified a specific condition that when j value is 1, then in that case, you will have to break. So when j value becomes 1, then only you have to, then j is double equals to 1, then break it. So in that case, what will happen is that it will be executing the same thing, but it will be breaking the inner loop as soon as that particular condition is achieved. So initially I value is 1, it will go inside and j value is 1. So this is your output. Let me just write down so that you guys understand it nicely. So this is your for I1, I5, and I++, and you have your inner loop for j less than 3, and j++. And you are printing both your I and j, and you are checking when j becomes 1, then break. That's the program that we have written. So I have I have j, and I have my output, but with a break condition. So here in this case, what happens is that I value is 1. 1 is less than 5. Yes, true. Go inside the loop and initialize j value to 1. Print the value of I and j. I and j is 1 and 1. So you will get an output 1 and 1. Now you are checking whether j is equal to 1. Yes, it is true. Then in that case, it will break the inner loop. So this inner loop would be broken. It will no longer be executing the rest of the program, and you will just increment the value of I. So I value would be incremented to 2. This time 2 is less than 5. Yes, true. Again, initialize the value of j is equals to 1. So j value is still 1. You will print the value of I and j. This time I value is 2, j value is 1. Once again, j is equal to 1, then break and just increment the value of I. So because the inner loop will no longer be executed and you will come back to the outer loop. So this time this becomes 3. 3 is less than 5, you will go inside the loop. You will initialize the value of j to once again to 1, and you will print the value, which is 3 and 1. Once again, the condition is true that j is equal to 1. So you will break the loop, and it will come outside the loop. So this becomes 4. 4 is less than 5. Initialize the value to j, print the value of I and j. Once again, j is equal to 1. Break the inner loop, increment the value of I because you come to the outer loop. Once again, you come inside the loop, and this time you will not come inside the loop because the condition is not satisfied, and you get the output as 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, and 4, 1. So that's how break actually works. So when you write it inside the inner loop, that specific inner loop is broken, and then it will come outside the outside loop. So that's one way of break. There is also another thing which is called as continue. Continue, what it does is, so break ends the current loop. Continue does not do anything which is written inside the loop, and it will just continue the loop. It will, as the name suggests, you will just continue the loop. You will not do anything. You will just continue it. I will write a program so that you understand that what exactly continue does. So if you remember in my last example, when we were writing the for loop, what exactly continue does is something like this. So for instance, you have your while loop. While that specific expression is evaluated, if a specific condition is achieved, you want to continue. So continue, what it does, break was bringing it outside. Continue will continue the loop. It will just continue. It will not break the loop. Does that make sense? Like you will continue. You will not do anything for the rest of the execution. It will just continue. When you write do while, so you can write do if a condition is achieved, you want to continue. And continue this time will continue based on that specific condition that you are writing. So the condition would be continued over here. For the for loop, when you write for int I equals to and those three specific things, and inside this, if you write if a condition is achieved, you want to continue. So it will not break, but rather than it will just update the I value. So it will just continue the loop. So if you want to write something like this in your Java program, how exactly this works, I will show that to you. I'll give you another example, new class, and this time this is continue. So this is a continue example. So I will be writing a for loop. So for int I less than equal to 10, I plus plus, and if I is greater than 4, and I is less than 9, if both of these conditions are satisfied, continue. System dot out dot println, which is I1. Let's see what's the error. I may not have been initialized. Yeah, I is equals to 1. Okay. So I'm writing a for loop over here, which will be running from 1 till 10. And then the condition that you are checking if I is greater than 4 and less than 5. So in that specific case, when it is greater than 4 and if it is less than 9, then just continue the loop. Like just update the value of I, update the value of I. Otherwise, you will just print. Okay. So here, let me just run this particular program so that you see my prediction is that it should be printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, it should be printing 1, 2, 3, 4, and it will skip 5, 6, 7, 8, and 8, and it should print 9 and 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, and 10. And that's what it prints, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, and 10. How exactly this happens, I'll tell you. Here on the whiteboard. Okay. So this is my continue loop. Continue, what it does is, so you have written for I1, I less than 10, I plus plus, and the condition is if, and here you are writing a compound condition, two conditions, that I is greater than 4 and I is less than 9. So based on this condition, if it is greater than 4, it means it could be 5, it could be 6, it could be 7, it could be 8. However, it should be also less than 9. So only these values, 5, 6, 7, 8, should be satisfying that specific condition inside this. And if it is true, then in that case, you want to continue your loop. How exactly you will do this? So here, if this condition is not there, then in that case, you want to print system.out.print, which is the I value. So here in this case, what will happen? You will start with I is equals to 1. So this is I, and this is your output. So you will be printing I, you initialize as 1. you will check whether 1 is greater than 4. 1 is not greater than 4, it is less than 4. So you will not go inside the loop, rather than you will just print the output, which is 1. You will increment the value of I, so I value becomes 2. You will once again check 2 is less than equal to 10. Yes, it is true. So you will come inside and you will check whether 2 is greater than 4. No. So you will just print the value, which is 2. Once again, you will update the value. So it becomes 3. 3 is less than 10, which is true. So 3 is greater than 4. No, it is less than 4. So you will not be going inside the loop, but rather you will print the value, which is 3. Next time, when you update the value, it becomes 4. 4 is less than equal to 10. Yes, true. You will come inside and you will check the condition whether 4 is greater than 4. 4 is um, uh, not greater than 4. In that case, you will be not going inside the loop and it will print the output as 4. You will again update the value. This time it becomes 5. 5 is greater than 4. Yes, true. As well as, is 5 less than 9? Yes, true. So you will come inside and you will continue. Continue means that you will not go for the rest of the program, rather than you will just update the value of I. So I value this time becomes updated to 6. 6 is less than equal to 10. Yes, true. You will check the condition whether 6 is greater than 4. Yes. And 6 is less than 9. Yes. Continue. So continue the loop. Just continue. Do not do the rest of the program. So 6 is incremented to 7. 7 is greater than 4 and 7 is less than 9. So once again, continue the program, which is I plus plus. This time it becomes 8. 8 is less than equal to 10. Yes, true. 8 is greater than 4. Yes. And 8 is less than 9. Yes, true. Continue. This time it becomes 9. 9 is less than equal to 10. Yes, true. This time 9 is greater than 4. But whether 9 is less than 9? No. So in that case, it will not be going inside the continue, but rather than it will just print the value, which is 9, which is the value of the I. Once again, you will update the value of I to 10. 10 is less than equal to 10. Yes, true. You will come inside. You will check 10 is greater than 4. Whether 10 is less than 9? No. So it will not be executing this. Rather than it will print the value of your I value, which is 10. Last time, in the very last iteration, that 10 becomes 11. 11 is less than equal to 10? No. So it will not be going inside the loop and the program will terminate. And that's how the continue specifically program work. You can write down in this specific example, you can also write down when you are taking input from the user. So I'll write one more program so that you understand like how exactly this works. So let me import java.util.scanner. I will rid of all of this. I will check for, I want to run it for 6 times, actually 5 times. Scanner as input, first to new scanner, system in, and here inside this system.out.print enter number. So you are taking input from the user and you want to take input 6 times. 6 times you want to enter, take input from the user. So I will just say enter number, maybe I. Value number equals to input dot next double. So you are taking a double value. And number let me just initialize double number, and you are also calculating the sum of those numbers. Okay. But you also want to check a specific condition. The condition over here is that the person doesn't enter a negative value. So in that case, how can you continue the loop? You don't want to break it, but you want to just continue. You want to still process the input from the user, but you do not want to take negative value. So in that case, what you can do is you can write a condition that if number is less than 0.0, if the person enters any negative value, then continue the program, just continue. Rather, if it doesn't, then I just want to keep a track of adding all of these numbers. And finally, I want to print. Outside this, I write system.out.println. Okay. Let me run this and let's see how exactly this works. So enter number 1, I enter 5. Enter number 2, I enter 6. Enter number 7, I enter this. This time I'll enter -1. So it is checking, it adds, like it is asking me to enter another value. This time I also add another negative number. So if you see over here, I'm processing the input that it should process 5 inputs from the user, and it should be adding only and only positive number. It should not be adding a negative number. So in that case, I have written a condition that if the person enters a negative number, then I want to just continue the loop and I do not want to do the addition of that. And that is the reason sum plus is equals to number is written outside. Then what will happen is that as soon as person, so here it is adding 5 plus 6, which is 11, 11 plus 7, which is 18, 18, and then next time you are adding a negative number. So as soon as you are adding a negative number, it will just continue the loop. It will not be adding it. So this particular line, line number 13 will not be executed and you will be just continuing the loop. So it will ask the next input. This time you enter a negative value. So it will again ask the next input because the loop is running for 5 times. So that is the reason you are again and again asking. Next time also, if you add a negative number, so it will come outside the loop and it should just print the value of the sum, which has been adding all the positive value, which in this case is 5, 6, and 7. So the same program, if you have to write down like in nested loop also, you can specify this inside a nested loop. And when you write continue, in that case, it will just rerun the inner loop continuously, not continuously. It will continue. It will not do the rest of the execution for the inner loop, and it will just continue for the uh, for the inner loop for the next update condition. So you can specify that specific example as well when you have like a nested loop. So I'll write down this time a nested while loop rather than a nested for loop in the previous example. So I will get rid of all of this. And let's see for a nested while loop, how exactly continue will work. So int I and j equals to 1. And while the condition over here is I is less than equal to 3, which is true because you have initialized the I value as 1. System dot out dot println outer loop right while, and this is your inner loop that you are writing, which is j is less than equal to 3. And inside this you are writing if j double equals to 2, j plus plus, continue, and you want to write you want to print your inner loop value, which is j. Yeah, also incrementing the value just to see if it will work or not. Okay. Variable. So let me initialize this as one. Okay. This should work. Doesn't? Let's see. Okay. So let's understand what happens in this specific code. So I will get rid of all of this and let's see how exactly the program will work. So you have two variables, which is I and j. I has been initialized to 1 and j is also initialized to 1. You are printing some specific values. So initially, your value would be, you would be printing outer loop I value, which is equal to 1. So according to line number 7. So 1 is less than equal to 3. So you will go inside the loop and you will print outer loop I value, which is equal to 1. Now you come inside the inner loop. Now you will check whether j value is less than equal to 3. So 1 is less than equal to 3. Then you will just print the inner loop value, which is inner loop, and j value, which is your j, which is 1. Now you will increment j plus plus according to line number 14. So this becomes 2. And you will solve the inner loop. As I mentioned, whenever you are writing nested loop, inner loop is solved completely. Once the inner loop is solved, then you will go back to the outer loop. So here you will be going to line number 8 and you will check 2 is less than equal to 3. Yes. Whether 2 is double equal to 2, yes. Then it means you increment the value of j. So j value becomes 3 and you continue the loop. This time 3 is less than equal to 3. Yes, which is true. You will go inside according to line number 9. You will not be going inside that, but rather than you will just print the value which is inner loop and j value, which is equal to 3. Then you increment the value of j, which becomes 4. 4 is less than equal to 3? No. So you will come outside the loop and you will just increment the value of I. This time it becomes 2. Now you will come outside the outer loop and this time you will print outer loop and I value, which is 2. You will come inside. Once again, you will check if j value, which is your 4, because you have not initialized. Let me just run this specific program just to see. Yeah, I was right over here. This time. So this time, the j value you have never initialized. So I was right till 1, 1, 3, and 2. J value is 4. So here in this case, it will never go inside the inner loop because your condition is not satisfied. Rather than it will just increment the value of I according to line number 16. So line number 8 till line number 15 will not be executed. But rather than you will just increment the value. So this time it becomes 3. And then 3 is less than equal to 3. Yes, true. And you will print system.out.println an outer loop I value. So this time it becomes the I value, which is 3, while j is less than equal to 3. J is still 4. So 4 is not less than equal to 3. So it will never go inside the inner loop. And you will just come outside and you will increment the value of I. This time it becomes 4. 4 is less than equal to 3? No, so it will not, not go inside your loop, and it will just come outside, and you will be getting outer loop 1, inner loop 1, inner loop 1, outer loop 2, outer loop 3. That's how this has been executed. I hope this was clear in terms of continue and break. These are two important code that you specifically write for understanding. If you want to break a specific loop based on a specific condition, you can write continue will just ignore the rest of the execution, and it will just continue updating. It will not be coming outside the loop, but still inside the loop, but just update the specific condition. Okay, so I think that was all for this particular class that I wanted to cover, which is this. I also covered nested loop with you, and this is all I wanted to cover. Okay, thank you, everyone.